Good evening. It's 7 o'clock on, why do I always have to look this up? 23rd of May. Because we don't keep track, do we, of the days? I should know because I've been out and been to an event that happened on the 23rd of May. So it's Saturday, the 23rd of May. Congratulations, Denise, on your new book. Woo-hoo. Murder at the Festival, Denise Beddoes. Yet to read it because I'm going to help her get it on Kindle. But it sounds, she was reading bits from it, sounds brilliant. And she's a brilliant person, so yes, go buy it. And Beth has read it. And
I
have
have.
you left a review?
I have, yes.
Oh, good. Oh, well
It's
done.
a real pleasure to read. It's well, typical cozy crime in many ways. It's what lovers of the genre would expect.
Yeah.
But it's also it's got a style that makes you feel, because of course it's about U3A members who help the police
Mm.
solve crimes.
Mm.
And you get to feel like you're in on all the village gossip, and
Right.
you're right there in this little village, taking part.
Mm. Yeah, she read a bit at the beginning and then did a this is what happens and then a little bit of context and then read a bit and it was hilarious.
Hmm.
Really, really funny. So anyway, we're here to read our. I'm just working my way through. I was saying to Beth before I hit record that I'm going to work my way through flashes, um, and these are very short. So the first one is 27 words, and I've read the second one. I might read it again just to refresh. But Beth is going to start us off. Hold on. Oh, it doesn't matter. Everybody knows that you write non-fiction. Normally, I change your name ahead of time to BB Elson. Let's do that. I'll do that. You
Okay.
tell us while I'm doing this. You tell us what
I'd
you've got.
I'd tell you a little bit about Haiku for Soulmates, which, as you can see, has got a really beautiful cover. For anybody who doesn't know what a haiku is, it's a very short poem of 17 syllables. It's a Japanese art form developed in the 17th century. The very famous originator of haiku was called Basho. And it's highly revered in Japan. It's trans whatever transmogrified itself into lots of languages.
Mm.
Uh, and English is now, of course, dominant in terms of the number of haiku written. But this is still valued in Japan, and they have special libraries for all the haiku that's produced anywhere, including this book.
Oh,
It's
hold it
produced.
up. Hold it up. Hold it up again. There we go. That's
There we go.
perfect. Perfect. Haiku, isn't this because obviously it's is it 757
575.
575. I have written some in the past. I have written poetry, but I don't publish it. I may one day. Probably not as Morgan Bailey, but there we go. Another story. I'll think of another name, and then I have three names that I need to uh, social media. Anyway. Um, and isn't there supposed to be that once you've on the second after the second line, there's supposed to be a shift, or is that very clever haiku?
That's the very clever level of haiku.
Right.
Also, of course, haiku did originate as comment on nature.
There's something about
And
fish,
so
I think. In
consequently, there's a Japanese competition every year, but they're really looking for very traditional stuff. So it's to capture a moment in nature. I think possibly the most famous haiku poem in the world is about a frog jumping off a lily pad into the water.
mm.
So it's that kind of thing that it is designed to capture. Although
It
this
was something to
book
do with water. Yeah.
is very much about the personal fear, because it's called Haiku for Soulmates. Not my normal topic matter, as you
Right.
know.
Right.
But I will read one. Well, I would if I hadn't stuck my bookmark in the wrong place. Um, I will read one of mine. They give each author a page and
Great.
5 haiku per page, and there's over 100 people here from all around the world,
Wow.
and the publishers in the US, Literary Revelations, they have won prizes for being independent publishers and all that kind of stuff.
And how
So
did you find out how did you find out about this to get involved?
this was a friend of a friend scenario.
Right.
Somebody I know at Tomorrow Writers Society who is a brilliant poet. And I'd written a haiku for something, one of our topics. And he said, "Oh, do you like haiku?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I really love it." And he said, "Well, you need to talk to so and so in the States, a friend of mine, because she edits haiku anthologies." So, and of course, the rest is history. This is the third one of hers I've been in.
Okay.
So, the little poem I would like to start us off on.
I think you may have to read it probably a couple of times. But
Yes, yes, yeah, I could do that.
yeah.
Lost soul on rough sea, sail into my warm welcome. It's not a mirage.
Oh, lovely. Packed a lot in.
Yes, yeah. Obviously, this is my favourite from the ones I submitted,
Mm.
because I think I mean, it's not overtly soulmate
No,
praising
it's
or
charming.
anything. There's got a
Yeah,
bit of mystery about it.
yeah.
So
Did you send
I'll do it again.
did you send more than they were due to publish and they chose their favourites or
No, what they do is that you submit 5,
okay.
and they accept them or reject them as a block.
Okay. Right.
So if you do have a, a weakness in one or two, then
It could yeah.
it's difficult. But that's the way they do it because I
Fair
suppose
enough.
they're thinking about page formats.
Yes, and having time to go back and say if they've got
Yeah.
so many submissions, they can do
Mm.
that.
I know the first one I contributed to, they did ask you to submit more and they chose which were their favourites.
Right.
But I think as it's got bigger, they've decided they can't do that,
Do that
as
now.
you say, because it involves a kind of feedback loop.
Yeah.
So shall I read it again?
Do. Yes, it's lovely.
Lost soul on rough sea, sail into my warm welcome. It's not a mirage.
It's got a Sappho feel about it because she was there
Oh,
on the
that's
rock.
high praise. Oh, thank you.
She was there on the well. Wasn't she there to distract? She wasn't there for a nice reason, was she? Am I probably getting two things muddled up?
I mean, I know she was a famous poet, but I'm going to be honest and say I'm not conscious
Or am I
of the
thinking of something else? Maybe
stuff of hers that I've read.
there's a poem I can't remember. I thought it was a Sappho. I'm probably thinking of something else. Of a siren on a cliff.
Ah, right, okay.
I think I'm thinking sirens, not Sappho.
Oh, mhm.
Siren on
No,
a
no, she was a real
dis
person.
yes to get the ships to break up on the
Hmm,
yeah.
yeah, she was real. The sirens were imaginary, but apparently they did sing very well.
Exactly, exactly. Hence sirens. Yes, lovely. Um, we have another one, and then I'll read a couple of.
Another haiku maybe from other sources. The problem is I have done some nature ones, but uh, yeah, this isn't so long ago. This is April. Of course, with the weather like it's been today, we think we're definitely in summer, but it'll change on Wednesday. So this one is a nature related one.
Nice.
Hello there, it's spring. Be startled by my yellow. Loud, proud, I am gorse.
That reminds me of I every sort of 3 or 4 weeks I go and collect my uncle, and every week Tim and I go to the local pub for dinner on a Wednesday, and probably every 3 or 4 weeks I go and collect my uncle, and then Tim walks the dog to the pub. I collect my uncle, and then we have dinner together, and I take my uncle back again. And as I was driving in or out one earlier on in the day, so it's in a shopping complex, and what I saw in the distance, just behind a tree, was what I thought somebody had painted the top of their hedge yellow. And I thought, why would you do it? And B, how would you do it? You know, painting, because hedges are
Mm,
very tactile, maybe the opposite of tactile. Um, Not an easy thing to do. And then realised that it was bright yellow, possibly
mm,
gorse or,
mm.
very bright buttercup.
Yeah, well, this was inspired by the gorse bushes up at Coombe Hill,
Oh, nice.
which you probably know. You probably take the dog up there for
Yes,
walks.
yes.
Um, and it's quite an interesting terrain because obviously it's mostly chalk, and I associate gorse with more kind of sandy areas. But
Mm,
there's quite a lot of gorse up there, and it was in full bloom, and it was really kind of eye-achingly yellow.
mm. Oh, how lovely. Do I have it again? And then,
Okay.
yeah,
So there, it's spring. Be startled by my yellow. Loud, proud, I am gorse.
love it. I love the repetition of the loud, proud,
Mhm.
because poetry is very much about the spoken,
Yeah.
the either repetition or alliteration or the rhyming. Yeah.
Now, time for something from you, Morgan.
Yes, I'm going to go with my flashes. I'm going to work my way through these. So I read the I did look earlier on at, because whenever I post these videos, I say what we've been reading. And I'd read the second one, Stuffed. So I'm going to go with the first one, which is 27. And they're shorter ones. Some work, some don't,
Hmm.
or don't so much. But these are the things I've written over the years. So this is escapism. And quite often with these, I've been given prompts to make into. In fact, I think we've mentioned these before, where there's sort of consequences, which I do occasionally towards the end in workshops,
Hmm.
where if there are 9 people, it works really well because there are 8 different prompts. So I start off by saying, put a number down between 100 and 1,000. And without fail, every single time somebody's put a number less than 100. So I said, well, just put a digit before it or after it to make it a 3-digit number. And then first name, pet's name, then a room in a house, an animal of any kind, wild or otherwise, a colour or shade of colour, and then an emotion and a genre. So this was 27 words. Um, the emotion was anger. The animal was a meerkat. I'm giving away the whole thing now. And then the location was London. So this is slightly. And then the location. Oh, I think the name. One of the names was London. So somebody had an animal, a pet called and London. The first name was Jordan, and the location was a basement. So that's pretty much giving it away. So I've just called it escapism. London made 22-year-old Jordan Lockwood angry. He was unsure why, but his aunt's meerkat didn't help, screeching away in the basement. until one day it escaped. Jordan followed. So there's not a lot you can do with a word count of 27 words.
Mhm.
So that was, especially when you're given about 8 of them,
Mm.
there's not a lot you can do.
But even so, in just those few words, you've got this kind of surreal scenario.
Yeah,
And you think,
of
oh,
aunt keeping a
and what happens
an aunt
next?
keeping a meerkat.
Mm.
And then I will reread Stuffed, because again, this is the same thing when I was given various prompts. And this is called Stuffed. Robin's mother turned 100 the day their cellar flooded, but he wasn't bothered. Even the stuffed sloth floating to the surface hadn't made him angry. Of all the hobbies she'd tried, taxidermy was the one he'd encouraged until she'd ordered a life-size glass case. So that's that one.
Ooh.
Uh, and then Hot Air. A box thumps down on a chair, narrowly missing a woman. Ow! Harry grins. Look, his estranged wife, Renata, pulls all 4 flaps, peers in, laughs, then sits back as a helium balloon with Happy Birthday on its front rises. Harry raises the gun in his hand. Bang.
Just shooting the balloon, obviously.
Obviously, absolutely, yes. And this is quite sweet. I don't know whether I should say the title because it kind of gives it away. I will. Dog collar. Barney was extremely patient. He'd sit and wait, listen when someone talked to him, and then get suitably excited when it appeared that there was something to get excited about. People seemed to relax when around him and seemed to get so much out of their meeting. He got his own back on Sunday with his long but fascinating sermons. So you kind of think, I mean, everybody knows what a dog collar is, that it's
Mm.
the white strip that vicars wear. Um, and so it's the play on words.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think I'll leave it there. Do you have something else to?
I do. This is I can't remember whether it's 300 or 500. I think this is a 300.
Okay.
Um, it's flash
It's
fiction.
not one you've sent to me for the 300 word competition.
It isn't, no. Um,
Not that it really matters.
no, because
Um,
yes, that was a theme, wasn't it?
it
I'm
was
trying to remember what the theme was. Oh,
the opening.
the opening. Yes, no, this is not about openings.
Okay.
This was actually came into my head when I misread something about an archaeological discovery.
Okay.
So anyway, I thought what had come into my head was probably much more exciting than what it actually turned out to be.
Oh,
Anyway, I digress. Resurrection. It's a lush mass of dark green splattered over mossy gravestones. I jump from my van, sighing to see the mighty yew tree uprooted and split by last night's gale. A fallen giant. Its limbs are still groaning from its fall and the giving up of its secret. The woman in an anorak standing by it must be the excited vicar who called me. She's younger than I expected, toothy, bespectacled, hair in a messy bun, just like me. I reach for my toolkit, announcing myself and my credentials. The vicar shakes my hand vigorously, her voice as breathless as it was on the phone. She hopes that she has proof of St. Arnulf. I try to calm her down, although of course I've always longed to make a big breakthrough, to turn dust into new history. Clouds are edging away clouds are edged away by a shy silver sun. I kneel by the twisted carcass of the yew. The sap smells refreshing, but it doesn't quell the bitter taste in my mouth. I've seen many ancient skeletons, most of which showed obvious signs of suffering, but this one is pure horror. How does a person become part of a tree? Well, it is a you, a shape-shifting, regenerating you, or, as the fibers hint, yous. I start with what can be seen of the skull embedded in the heartwood. I clear dust with a tiny brush. I pick up fragments with tweezers and put them into small plastic bags. I move down to the ribs and arms. I suppress my hand's urge to shape as I notice the way they are broken. Pinioned on two fragments of rib, sorry. Can it be? I breathe deeply and reach for a magnifier to check. My eyes haven't deceived me. There is an unmistakable fish head. The vicar peers over my shoulder. With a gasp, she raises her hands and shouts, "Thank you, Lord, for resurrecting your martyr Arnulf to us. Please." I feel rude for interrupting, but I'm alarmed by her certainty. "The fish is a symbol of the early Christians," she protests. "And it may be significant, but it may not." The hope and faith in the vicar's eyes draw me in. I see a humble man, a fish carcass tied round his neck as a mark of ridicule, being bound and crushed between yew saplings by drunken pagan raiders. Perhaps I'll find traces of the rope. No, I stop myself. I am a scientist. All I can record now is crushed bones. "I'm sorry, Reverend. I hope that will cover my rudeness and my rebuttal." She nods, but her eyes still glisten with the rapture I wish I could share. "I'll call specialists to recover the trunk. We'll work on this in the lab." "I'm sorry, it will take months." I pick up a torn twig and smile at her. "Why not take cuttings and sell them? One way or another, you can claim a miracle."
It was really creepy when I was thinking,
Yes,
oh.
well,
I think the
um,
word choice is lovely. I love the splatter and the groaning and giving up its
mm.
secret and the description of the vicar. Um, yes, and then I didn't even make any notes after that. I was just like, right, what's happening? What's happening? Is this really only 300 words? Because you pack
I know, it does
so
seem a
much
lot.
in. Yeah.
And I suppose there's maybe a bit of tell, don't show with the protestations about the significance of the fish. But um,
You
oh,
can't always show everything though.
no,
You've got, especially within a very short word count.
and I'm conscious when the first iteration of that, when I read it out at another writers group in Slough,
Mm.
um, some people got it, but one or two people said, "What's going on?"
Right.
And I thought, so I'm going to obviously have to put one or two things in a historical explanation. I know at one point
Submit
I
the name
thought,
doesn't mean anything to me.
hmm,
Um,
yes, and there was, I did do quite a bit of research about ewes.
right.
Um, the bones that were found in the real life archaeological scenario
Mm,
were actually found in the roots of a ewe.
okay.
But the way it sounded when I first, I can't remember whether I read it or I heard it and misheard it or misread
Well,
it.
I
I
like reading
finally
up
thought,
on it.
actually in you, and I was trying to work
Yes.
out how this could happen. And it
Right.
could happen because ewes regenerate and merge. And
Right.
anyway, there we go.
It reminds me actually of when we were in Spain, as we were walking around the village. It's kind of a village at the top of a hill and not really in the middle of nowhere because there are other villages dotted around on the tops of other hills and other houses um, sporadically in between. But there was a house, and you can see some in the process of being made, and it's as if, no offence to 5-year olds or to builders in Spain, but it's like you see and how is that going to stay together? Because they haven't even here. We go, well, okay, well, that's half a brick. So I've got to keep that to one side until I've got a space that size. Fill the rest of the holes in with mortar. It's like misshapen Lego bricks,
Mm.
just filling us. It's right. I've got this space. Let's put a few in there. Oh, there's a bit of a gap there. That doesn't matter. And you think, how do these houses stay up? But there was one that the house had been built around a tree. So
Ah,
the
right.
tree was there already, and you've got the sort of straight walls, but where the tree was growing, you can imagine the rest of the tree inside the house. It's fascinating. Tim took some photographs of it.
Mm.
It's fascinating. Um, yes, it was a lovely place. It's kind of I compared it with Hotel California. That once you go there, you don't leave
Right.
because it's being up the top of a mountain. It was fine going up because I'm on the right hand side, because it's the other way around to us. I'm on the right hand side as a passenger, and I'm against the mountain. Whereas when we came down, which we did one day to go to Malaga, um, I'm then on the outside and I'm just driving, not looking, and it's a shit. There are barriers, but they're only that high, sort of metal barriers, and sheer drop. And halfway down, bunches of flowers.
Mm.
Not terribly reassuring.
No.
So there we go. So my latest project, I have her just moved there. I don't name the village, and I may or may not name the village, but I name some real places around there, and she goes to a real Algaroba Costa, as
Mm.
we did on the Thursday. Okay.
Okay.
Love it.
So, some more shorts?
Yes, let's have a look. I should have had one I prepared earlier. Um, okay. Oh, this is quite sweet. Passion Wagon. Finch had wanted to be a train driver ever since he was a child, but fate had led him to be an accountant. Now he was retired, he was finally fulfilling his dream. He loved to watch the children laugh as he pulled the chain to sound the horn. All aboard, he'd shout when they reached Lakeside Park's miniature railway station. Um, yeah. Double Trouble I've read before, the homage to Lewis Carroll. Um,
I'm not sure I've heard that.
oh, okay. Maybe I did it with when HJ was here.
Mm.
So it's I've given it away now, but you'll know who it is as soon as I read. It's all in dialogue. So I love writing dialogue.
Mhm.
She looks lost. She's not lost. She looks around. She's looking around like she's lost. She's taking in the scenery. She doesn't look very happy. No, we should speak to her. We should. You might frighten her. No, you might. Why me? You're bigger. No, I'm not. R2. She's coming this way. She's looking at us. No, she's not. Shh. You're the loud one, and you're the ugly one. You're stupid. Loud and stupid. I can change. You're still ugly. She's turning away. Where's she going? She looks lost. She's not lost. She's looking around like she's lost. She's taking in the scenery. She doesn't look very happy. No, we should speak to her.
Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
Indeed, indeed. Let's see if I can flip. Oh, this is quite sweet. Um, I did my very best. It's not really sweet. It's quite sad. I did my very best to die in the war. It isn't every day you meet the love of your life. I did wonder whether I felt like that because he was an escape, an early exit from living with my parents. Felicity, her name was. Should have been Florence. I called her that just as a joke, and she loved it, though she'd probably heard it hundreds of times, so it stuck. She was my Florence Nightingale. Didn't flinch when I came in, all shot up, hardly recognised as human, let alone recognisable to anyone who knew me. Most of my battalion was killed, so not many familiar faces anyway. I saw Gideon Quaid being wheeled in. When I was better, sitting up in bed, he was screaming, like a girl, as the saying goes. The screaming stopped just after that. Poor Giddy. It was Flo's blue eyes looking down at me that I remembered when I came in. I wasn't in as bad a shape as Gideon. I lived, but Mum burst into tears when she saw me, and that was a long time after. I didn't have identification on me, jacket still somewhere on the battlefield, and I liked being anonymous. Thought I had a chance of a new life if I pretended I didn't know who I was. But I got the new life anyway with Flo and came clean. Mum's eyes were pity, but Flo's were love. Even the first time. Of course she could have been like that with everyone she cared for. But I got the extra biscuits, the hottest tea, the phone number when I was fit to go home. Mum couldn't understand why I didn't want to go back to her. She wanted everything to return to normal, but there's no normal after a thing like that. Flo understood, so she rescued me, kept rescuing me for 47 years, and all because I did my very best to die in the war.
Oh, that's a really interesting angle. Yeah. Um, yes, the ones who survive are, often the most poignant cases.
Mm. Because they have to deal with it. I mean, time immemorial. Now, first, I was kind of, I think I was, because Florence Nightingale, I was kind
Mm.
of thinking First World War-ish.
Mm.
Yes. Yeah, I should go through these really to, so I don't want to read ahead of time. It should be useful. But I've been writing, been busy creating a new novel. So
Of
what
course.
are you working on at the moment? You're working on your sequel to Heroes
Yes,
and Traitors?
yes, I'm working on Power and Puppetry, the sequel to Heroes and Traitors,
Great.
and not making a huge amount of progress because I'm trying to intersperse it with a textbook which is at a fairly critical point. Um, but I did wonder at one point because there's quite a big gap. I thought, am I actually going to get round to writing this sequel? Because I'd set it up at the end of Heroes and Traitors that more could happen to the main characters.
Mm,
Um, and in particular, I did have some ideas about the female main character.
mm,
But of course, what I felt was that with Heroes and Traitors having been largely focused on the male protagonist, I was going to have to involve him in some way, and it was a bit difficult to see how I could do that. But I did way more planning than I usually do.
right.
Um, and of course, as I've got into more detail on the planning, I've realised that things that I assumed on the first draft plan are going to have to change for dramatic effect.
Mm,
So the planning is a fairly constant thing, but the
mm,
actual writing is a bit sporadic.
right. Well, I'm finding that because my early works, I haven't actually written all that much. I've done a few of the Henry ones, but they're quite easy because he just goes on a different adventure in each
Mhm.
ebooks, and that's one thing I've got to do is put all the ebooks into a paperback because they're all novelettes, they're sort of between 15 and 20,000 each. And but I never really planned. I didn't plan my novels. I mean, this one, Serial Data, I'd got just these characters and then threw them and wrote the whole thing in a month. So I did no planning, but that was quite easy because she's a journalist who goes and dates different men in different
I know.
locations.
I've read that one too.
Right, yes, and reviewed. Thank you very much. Lovely review. Right above a 1 star that said it was dull. So
I
it's
don't
my
think
Marmite.
maybe we
It's
should
my
say.
Marmite. It's my Marmite novel.
Yeah.
But it did make me realise actually I don't put enough because I love dialogue, as you can tell from the Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And so I don't put enough description in. So with this one I'm working on at the moment, which is set in Spain with the Andalusian hills, as I was writing it as I was looking at the view I was describing, that I do need to put more detail in.
Mm.
And so this review said that by the end of it he still didn't know what she looked like, but she looks like the character on the cover. And it's more about her adventures.
Mm.
And you don't, Jack Reacher isn't described other than him being tall.
Mm.
And so you want to not put in so much that the reader can't imagine anything because you've told them everything.
Yes, yes.
Um,
The balance between um, being too specific and not saying enough is difficult.
it is.
And people have, as you say, people have different tastes about what they want in that.
Exactly. You'll have one person in a crime novel. They want to know how many seconds or milliseconds it takes for the and what angle of the trajectory from a bullet to a gun and the
Mm.
impact it makes, and most people don't. It's
Mm.
the one person. But what I'm doing now, and I do it when I get novels in to edit, is I will and I'm cataloguing the length of my chapters, and they are sort of alternating between 500 words ish and 1500. And it's just how it's working out so far. I'm only 10,000 words in, but it's roughly how it's working out. But I do a just a paragraph of this is what happens in this chapter in present tense. So it works, it then becomes a synopsis. I'm going to self-publish these, so I'm not sending them anywhere. But it helps me look if I've got the whole book in what ends up being about 5 pages. I can see at a glance without having to go back through the whole thing where I'm up to. And it does help. So that's, although I'm writing it, in theory, I'm writing the um, synopsis as I'm writing the chapter. Sometimes I'm thinking, well, actually, yes, this is a good idea. So I write it in the synopsis and then it translates in. So I say I'm now a plantser. So I'm somewhere between plotting and pantsing because I was finding with the books that I don't plan at all, I would write when I stop something. If I don't know what happens next, but I know a later scene, I'll put more here, and then I'll carry on with the later bits. And when I get to the end of a novel, I'll then search for more here, and I can add in the relevant connections, or a scene may not be relevant anymore, and so I take them out. And I was finding I was stopping or running out of steam. I've got so many things that I've got a half a novel. I've got I call it my Eric Morecambe novel, where I've got all the right notes, but not necessarily the right words, but not necessarily in the right order.
Yes.
And that's just over 100,000 words. So that's a lot of, and because I want to make it, originally it was going to be a 4 book series. And then I thought, well, there's a lot of intertwining. So I could make it one novel. So I shoved it all into one novel. But now I know it doesn't make sense as a novel. And so it needs to be pulled out because I only really want to have one plot, one major plot, as there should
Mhm.
be, one major plot per book. And so now I need to strip it back out again. But that's so the other one's about 45,000 words. So I've got 1.5 novels sitting doing nothing, waiting for me, and they're years old, at least 5 years old, both of them. That I need to go back to because it's a lot of word count to not do anything with.
Mm.
But in the meantime, I'm working on a 60-book series. So I think I have my work cut out enough for that.
Mm.
So there we go. Have you got something else to read?
Well, I'm conscious of time,
That's okay.
so
We did actually start.
I wonder whether a slightly longer poem. I think I'll go for the poem that I read out at the
Okay. While you're
recent.
doing that, I'll mention the 300 word. because I'm
Oh,
hoping
yes, that's a
people
good
will see
idea.
this.
Let's do that.
If people don't see it in time for this, I set up a in conjunction with I do a podcast on Spotify, hopefully to go elsewhere in the near future, called 300 words a day, because it's my favorite statistic. 300 words a day is 109,500 words in an average non-leap year day. So if you write 300 year, so if you write 300 words a day, you could have over 100,000 words in a year. And so I do a podcast, different prompt every single day. And then I look at the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So when you're creating a novel, if you can answer those seven questions, who characters are, where it's set, why they're in that situation, what's going on, etc. I've answered all those questions. Then you've almost got a little plot in just those questions. And so I give a prompt and then sort of analyze it a little bit. And it's about 2 minutes each episode. It's really not long. And so I thought, because I love judging short story competitions, and that it would help raise money for Self Pub Fest, because all the profits go to 3 local to Buckinghamshire charities. And so it's £3 for one story, up to 300 words. And the theme for May is April and May. It's 2 months at a time, is the opening. So it closes next Sunday. That's right. Yes, next Sunday, week tomorrow. And it's £3 for the first story, £5 for the second story. And obviously you can send in as many as you like. Half the pot is split between the top 3 entrants. So that's authors, not stories. And then they'll be highly commended, who just get a pat on the back. And I have got enough now. Beth was first, which is lovely. So we have got enough to share the pot now. And then the other half goes to the 3 charities, split between them. And we're up to £361. I haven't added actually the extra people who've sent stories in, so that's great. And so by the end of the year, I'm hoping to double that and then be split between the 3 charities, which is fantastic. And we have July all-day festival, 5th of July, and then the Aylesbury one on the 4th of October. So that will definitely raise more money for them for that. And that was one thing I was going to say. And then next Wednesday, because I am in these sessions, I like to give, we give some feedback. But these are, and they don't have to be published. If you're watching this and you want to read out a work in progress, you're very welcome to. But these are recorded. And I'm hoping Beth will join me some Wednesdays for what I've called Wednesday Whips, which are 6 of us behind closed doors in a safe space where it won't be recorded, so it will never appear on anybody, and I will have a setting where nobody can record it, certainly on Zoom, and where we're reading out works in progress. They can be quite raw, so really rough and ready, and then everybody can give honest feedback on it. So it is a critique group. So that's called Wednesday Whips, and that will be midday on a Wednesday, UK time, for up to 6 people, myself included, for 2,000 words or thereabouts, bits of poetry, bits of whatever. But it won't be recorded, it won't appear on YouTube, and it's for more raw stuff, really, than we're sharing today. There we go. So a little plug for
Yes,
both of
you
those.
reminded me there of one of the few bits of my IBM training, gosh, 50 years ago, that I remember. And when we did project management, we were taught this little Rudyard, well, it's not the whole poem. Rudyard Kipling wrote a poem called Six Honest Serving Men, and it's just the first verse. I have 6 honest serving men, they serve me good and true. Their names are what and why and when and where and how and who.
Love it.
And gosh, it's so useful that
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Um,
So we were talking about plotting and pantsing before this. Yeah.
yes, you were,
So
and I
yeah,
was.
I advise. I'm doing a up in Swanwick, the Swanwick Writers' School in August.
Hmm.
I'm one of the key. I did a couple. I did an hour long on writing competitions, and I did 2 1 hours on editing last year. And they've invited me. Well, I put myself forward, but they said yes. And now I'm doing a 4 session on planning and writing a novel. And
Oh,
I've gone from being a pantser, just getting an idea and going with it, which is fine for short stories. But I think for
mm,
novels, it is useful to have, even if you can only answer the what, why, who, what, where, when, why, and how. Then it's useful to do something, because we still want to. We are, I think, writers by nature. Even if you're a Frederick Forsyth who would write a 300-page outline, there is the joy that is discovery writing. We have an idea, and then things still surprise us. We go off
mm,
at tangents,
yeah.
and that's part of the fun of writing. Um, so,
Okay.
what have you got now?
I have got a poem called Concourse. Now, I read this out at the launch of another Marlow Writers Society publication called Reflections. And it was a collaboration that we did with the Camera Club. And there were two parts to it. One was we wrote a poem, well, we wrote two poems, and one was chosen by one of the photographers to work with.
Hmm.
And then the Camera Club gave us poems, and we didn't have a choice. We were allocated a photo with a title.
Okay.
That's quite challenges. Anyway, this is my my poem for that anthology.
Mhm.
On course. How happy am I, drinking in summer, feeling my swelling fruitfulness, swaddled in a glossy shell and a dense coat of prickles. I am invincible. You, I see you walking the busy concourse where 5 parkland paths connect, always alone, longing to connect with a certain man you see, but you let him pass. Does your coat have prickles on the inside? You look up to admire me, sad eyes reflecting my scorn. You are like a fallen nut, crushed and rotting.
Hmm.
I can't even pity you. I will fulfill my destiny as a beautiful tree, and I will suck greedily on your remains.
Blimey, what a place to end. Well, I was writing half the poem when you started because I loved it. I love the voice. You do voice really well. I do
Oh,
like the
thank you.
voice. It's the way you read it as well. I love the what was the HH at the beginning?
The
Right, the
H.
first two words,
How
wasn't it?
happy am I?
How happy. Yeah. And the swelling and swaddled, and
Swaddled
the
in a
dense
glossy
coat of
shell.
prickles.
Yes, so
Yeah. And
this
is
was
this is
the picture. Can you guess what the picture was?
well, I'm guess because you said about somebody had, there was a man and passing by, there was a
Yes,
bush.
yeah. But from the first verse, what does that give you?
um
Don't worry, don't worry.
that's the trouble when I'm so concentrating on the words.
It was a sweet chestnut.
uh
Um and it was obviously a really hot day, and these camera club people, they know how to kind of get certain effects in the way that they take a picture.
right.
So this sweet chestnut and its prickly shell, it really looked very, very swaggery.
Right.
Yeah.
Funny. How funny. Yeah, no, I could picture it. I just couldn't think what it was.
Hmm.
The dense coat of prickles and the swelling and the swaddling, and yeah, no, it's lovely. I was going to say something. Yeah, my dad was a photographer. And so we quite often used to go to Tring camera club,
Uh-huh.
which my uncle has. He's an honorary member, and it is historical society as well. An honorary member because they were lived in Tring for years. My aunt and uncle. And so yeah, I think I was talking about this on something I recorded. I don't know whether it was Malcolm Alexander's Spotlight. We were talking about photography
Uh-huh.
before or after or before or during. We were talking about photography, and my dad was a photographer, and so he had all the Hasselblads, and he was a Canon fan. I was a Nikon fan, and I had a really lovely red. And it's, have you got a new car? Oh, what colour is it? I'm a typical girl in that respect. And then I like tech. So what does it do? Um, and I had a red Nikon DS 3200, which it was great. I bought it to do videos actually. Then
Mhm.
kind of realised that my iPhone would do really good videos and record videos on this webcam. And so I ended up, because it's all very heavy and it had a zoom lens, I ended up giving it to the local charity shop, and they were delighted because it had all sorts of other stuff with a
Mhm.
case, and it's all very pretty and hardly used. I just think these days you have your phone. I've got a little icon, a little compact one, and yes, just but some of the photographs when you see there's a beautiful one quite recently of a polar bear asleep on a sort of a bit like a cup iceberg,
Right.
and it tired from all the fishing it was doing and was just asleep. That was beautiful, seeing all that. So yes, I like Henry actually started from a photograph, the Dog Detective
Mhm.
series, because there's a lady, an English lady who lives in America called Julie Duffy, and she has a website called storyaday.org. I don't think it's Story a Day May because she runs things the whole year, but it's storyaday.org. And the 1st of May, so she'll be doing it at the moment. I'm not getting the email, so maybe she's not. And she would put a different prompt up every day, and one of them was just a picture, and it was a cartoon of a round rug, and each circle was a different color. And on the edge of this rug was a cat toy with its ear chewed off. And I came up, which ended up being chapter 2, I think, or part of chapter 2, of this talking dog looking
Mm.
up at its owner going, well, what do you expect me to do? I'm a dog. And you don't have to
Mm.
pull it apart. Well, what else am I going to do? Created and now I still haven't worked on the 6th one actually, which came back from Graham, my editor, November 2023. It can't be that long ago. 2024 maybe, anyway, too long ago, and it's only about 15,000 words. I haven't done anything with it, so that's another thing I need to do, is get back into that. So yes, I've so much writing in my on my computer that I need to do something with. So are you very good at just working on one thing? I mean, you do lots of, because you do poetry and
Mm.
short stories and novels. Do you
Yes.
do you? I mean, I think you've already answered this earlier on, where you're working on your follow up, but you take breaks to then work on other things
Mm.
as well at the same time. Do you think that
And
keeps you fresh?
sometimes I think that helps. Other times it frustrates.
Right. Too much of a distraction.
Yeah. I mean, certainly doing short things is not too much of a problem. And, going to writers' groups and or doing a limited number of competitions, that's kind of fun, and that
Mm.
kind of is just part of the mix of the day. But
I think it takes the pressure off if you can
hmm,
do something, even if it makes the novel process slower.
hmm,
I think if you're for me anyway, if I'm only concentrating on one thing, this is why I've come up with this 60 book series, so that I've had too much of the current one, I can go and do a bit
Hmm.
more to another one. So that, even though it's the same series, it keeps it a bit fresher.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's lovely. As long as you always have content for a Saturday evening.
Of course.
Good. Well, thank you so much.
You're
You
welcome.
and HJ are my stalwarts of Saturday night, but I need to just keep plugging away. I do every now and then. I put one post up on Instagram, and I need to do. You have to see the same thing 7 times apparently to
Oh, more than that
really
these
take.
days, I think,
Yes,
because there is just so much out there.
because also you never know. I might post it, and then people are looking at that time but don't see my
Mm.
thing. It only gets shown to a certain percentage of followers and friends and so on. But
Are you on Blue Sky?
I like TikTok. I signed up to it, and I haven't done anything with it. But it's kind
Mm.
of only a
I
certain
tried
amount of hours
TikTok
in
and
the day.
found it a
Which
little bit
do you concentrate?
scary.
Because I've heard you should really just concentrate on the core. Pick two almost,
Right.
and just concentrate on those
Mm.
and build up a following. So for me,
Ah,
it's
okay. Yeah.
Instagram and Facebook and Instagram.
Mm.
But I did post on TikTok. I did when the author spotlight. I had 21, I think, author spotlights, and I did a little video on Canva that went on YouTube. So I need to do a new one because Malcolm was the 74th. And then I did a series. I think I promoted the April festival, and then I was going to do a walking the dog, talking about anything that was on my mind. I did that for 4 days, and then spent 2 hours on the fourth evening blocking. So 2 hours blocking American. I said this to Eric Goebelbecker the other day, who's American. I said, no offense, but I spent 2 hours blocking American widowed army majors, surgeons, and all of those. And he said, no offense taken, I get the female version of that trying to,
Mm.
come on to me.
Yeah.
So, yes, and
So
it's
many
a
bots out
downside.
there.
But we have to be visible, don't we?
Mm.
Otherwise nobody will ever know
Yeah.
that we exist. But it's all time consuming. It's the
It is
joy that
indeed.
is marketing,
Mm.
the umbrella that is marketing. So when I do the July um, festival, which I hope to have you involved, 5th of July Sunday, the same publishing version, October, but it's online, 5th of July. And I can't remember what I was going to say now. Yes, one of those panels, I think it's the last panel of the day, actually, 5 o'clock, is about marketing. Yeah, it would be, because that's the natural progression once you've published. It's about marketing. So that will be really interesting for people to say what works and doesn't work.
Mhm.
And hopefully we'll have an audience asking questions to see what works for them. But it's kind of, how long is a piece of string? You could
Mm.
be away for a week and then find that it fizzles out, and you have to keep. How long? How often? How many platforms do you go on, and how often do you go on, and what do you say? And because we know that please go and buy my book doesn't work.
No. And yet that's the most honest appeal.
Exactly. If you've
Yeah.
got a new book out, then fine. Marlowe Writers, uh, show up the new book, please, for Marlowe
And
Writers.
Marlowe writers
There we
and
go.
Marlowe,
Slack, new
and
poetry, number
what?
9. I've got one of them. I'm not sure which one I've got. So again, not one I'm going to give away.
Mhm.
New, but yes, very good. And it's available on Amazon.
Most of them are,
Right,
obviously the most recent one isn't.
right.
I think Slack 8 is up there on Amazon.
Okay. I'll have to
Yeah.
have a look because
Mm.
I alternate. So on a Sunday evening, we're going to be reading physical. Well, Tim will be on his iPad, but I'd like to sit there and read physical books. because otherwise I'd be too tempted to have it playing in the background and then I'm checking emails or something, and not. I just want to sit and read, and they are my favourite because I'm an editor during the day pulling apart novels.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, reading novels, because I'll get a certain way and I'll go, that wouldn't happen. You said on page 2 that such and such. I can't switch off my. Whereas short stuff, it's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm wired because it's my favourite. Short stories are my favourite
Mm-hmm.
formats anyway. And so it'll be a pleasure to sit and read, work my way through my whole wall. Wait, downstairs, the 2 alcoves either side of the fireplace we never use is full of, and they're all stacked up on the floor, one waiting to go in, are collections of short stories. So I shall work my way. So by the time we move to Dorset in however many years' time, when we have no more family here, I may have got through the stack on the floor, if not gone to it, freed up some of the alcove. Anyway, thank you, Beth. I'll let you go.
Thank you very much, Morgan,
You're
for
very
inviting me.
welcome. And this will appear on the short story I say SSS, but it's SS and
P.
PS, short story and poetry Saturdays, and on your page. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.